Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast. Today we have Mike from OneUpFBA, who does a lot of wholesale stuff. Did over 1.5 million in sales last year with Wholesale is an awesome warehouse that we see all over social media. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Garrett and Miles. I appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
Blessed to be here. Blessed to be here. You guys have had
Oh,
some really awesome guests on this podcast, so that's incredible.
It's a numbers game. If we just get enough of the guests, and we'll run into some good ones at some point.
Absolutely. You've had some heavy hitters on here, so that's really cool.
Oh yeah. And so we've followed each other for a while, and I've seen a lot of your stuff. I'm not super familiar with your backstory though, if you want to fill us and the listeners in on how you got going with Amazon, how long ago, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my story's not too far off of a lot of people's. It's about 7 years ago, started reselling on eBay, watching people like Break and Profit, some other people on YouTube, just picking up on content, how to resell product, slowly transition into a new product on Amazon with a little bit of a private label attempt. So now we're about 4.5 years ago and didn't do too good with private labels. So really just jumped right into the wholesale model. The classic cruising through YouTube, saw a sponsored ad, got baited into clicking it, learned more about Amazon and bought a program, bought some mentorship coaching, and the rest is history, man. Just been doing wholesale for the past 4 years.
So take us through briefly, not in too much detail, that private label excursion. What went wrong? What do you think went wrong? And kind of what did you learn from it, if anything? I
was selling a 3-pack of bracelets. I did some basic research. I found an interesting niche, and fast forward, 5-6 months, built the listing up, got some reviews. It was trademarked. So they said either pay us royalties or take it down. And at the time I had recently joined like a wholesale training. I was learning a little bit about this wholesale model. So I was like, I'm gonna just take it down and move on. It wasn't working. It was profitable, but at that point I'm just like, do I really want to start all over or just jump into wholesale?
Yeah. That seems like a pretty pain-free, quick and easy exit, regarding it's seemingly what it could have been.
Oh yeah, no lawsuit, no nothing. They're like, you can either take it down or pay us for life, basically, for every sale. And I'm like, we're not doing that.
Yeah. And now you got the warehouse and the whole wholesale operation. So you've been at it for a while. You want to kind of walk us through like 2018 XYZ, 2019, like how you kind of progressed?
So 2018 was really, really trial and error. I think it's actually a little bit more difficult to jump directly into wholesale. I don't know if I knew what I was getting myself into. I was just like,
I agree.
From zero, jumping straight into wholesale. So my first year, probably not too uncommon. I mean, I maybe did like 50,000 the whole year in sales, just dabbling in a couple products, buying a few closeouts. 2019 was probably about 180. So I started kind of going from a little hustle to taking it a little seriously and starting to set some like revenue goals and whatnot. Like 2020 range, really started bumping it up, probably like 500-600K. And then jumping up till last year, 2022, was just over like 1.6. So definitely that's when, in the past like 2 years, is when I really started taking it seriously, scaling it, paying attention to, number of units sent in and establishing wholesale.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we talk about all the time though. And when people approach us in terms of, do I start OR or wholesale, right? Wholesale is going to be just a slower grind. You call 100 brands, you call 100 suppliers. You may win 10 of those, you may win 30. And out of those 10 or 30, potentially a handful will be profitable. But with OA, once you learn how to execute, once you learn how to source and where to source from, you can go spend 5,000 tonight, and that'll turn around in a couple of weeks and come right back in your bank account, right? And so, what made
100%.
You start wholesale as opposed to OA, or was it just a lack of information?
It could have been lack of information. It was kind of just like what kind of filled the gap for the time being, and what information I had access to. I started on Amazon like 2018, and I don't really recall a ton of information about the
Yeah.
whole detailed OA business. I saw Larry Labarsky, he was doing a lot of wholesale videos. I was watching all his content. Couple other wholesale guys in the space, and I was like, well, I mean, if they're doing good with it, maybe I'll give it a shot. But definitely, I think jumping directly into wholesale, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I think that the RA OA model is incredible for understanding the process and like learning the ecosystem of Amazon overall.
And the data.
And the data, your Keepa, learning how to read all the
Yeah.
charts and the shipping process. I'm sure you guys went through a similar thing.
On a
Yeah.
smaller scale though. So can you talk us through any big mistakes you made in that beginning of the wholesale model in terms of maybe a bad buy, maybe looking at a Keepa graph that you read incorrectly, any sort of big growing pains there?
I've made every mistake under the sun, and I'm sure I'll make more. From miscalculating variation listings, competing directly with Amazon. We've all made that mistake where you're real new, you buy a bunch of product and you realize, oh, Amazon pops on the listing and now you can't sell any of this product. Outside of that, I mean, plenty of products in the beginning you buy too much of, miscalculate, you're buying 400 units when you really should have bought like 40, and you're pulling data from the wrong sources. So really learning like the analytical side of like Keepa and variations and all of these things is like crucial to new. I would say for a newer seller, just like really get super good at Keepa and the fundamentals of the business, because that's really, if you don't build up the foundation, it's going to be pretty hard to scale from there.
Yeah, and
Man, you're preaching everything that we always do, word
Yeah.
for word.
yeah, that's what's tough about. But if say you start with wholesale, it's tough because you got MOQs, you got those minimum order quantities. You want to get your relations. That's what's nice about being on the arbitrage side. You might only be able to get a few of certain things, right? And that leads you to going wider, which leads you to go through more data, which gets you better at the process and everything. There's definitely a bull case in either way. So for the YouTube viewers, what's that stuff behind you there?
These are all returns.
Yeah.
It was like some type of drink.
Yeah.
I'll just called back. The GS1 update, not to go too deep, ruined a lot of listings, and I've just been pulling a bunch of product.
I recognize that scale though. Did you get that from Amazon? I have that exact same one.
Oh yeah, that thing is ancient. Back in the eBay days. Yeah, back in the eBay days.
The flaps fold out and you put the box right on top. Yep.
Right.
And so you have a warehouse now. So what's because I assume that's probably an older workstation there, like maybe your returns still come to the crib or something.
We do like some FBM and stuff. I actually send it. I try to separate it because I have a good bit of storage at home. So because we kind of either like donate it or I'll just analyze the product, or maybe sometimes even just toss it if it's damaged and I can't do nothing with it. So I try not to fill the warehouse with a bunch of damaged junk. I try to keep it really clean. So what was your initial question? Is it just like returns?
Oh, when did you get the warehouse?
Okay, so yeah, we'll dive a little deeper into the main wholesale stuff. 2021, January. So I'm going on about 2 years now of warehousing. My very first space was like a little corner. I asked this guy if I could rent a little tiny space in this big room, and it was only about maybe 700 square feet. I could fit a couple pallets, a table, a scale, like bare bones basic. But what really sold me on it was access to commercial docks. Like that was a game changer for what we were trying to do. Bring in pallets and start prepping product, and then have a Amazon truck come and pick that up.
What's the benefits of pallets for people who don't know?
Sure. Overall, so you always want to try to send in as much as you can for that specific price point. I think that should be the goal in terms of scaling. If you're prepping a lot of product and you're shipping yourself, the goal should be moving from your standard parcel, which are like your UPS boxes, to then working up into shipping a pallet. Because a pallet might be $115 with the partnered carrier program, And that amount of boxes, standard parcel might be, I don't know, upwards of 200, maybe even 300, depending on the weight and what you're shipping. But yeah, really the benefit is the weight. You can go up to 1,500 pounds of inventory and up to 72 inches on that stuff. So it really allows you to scale, and instead of shipping 1,000,000 boxes, you can just send one pallet.
And for context, what is your standard cost per pound?
Standard
in terms
cost
of
per
shipping?
pound.
Yeah, for shipping pallets. Isn't it like 20 cents, 15 cents, something like that?
It's pretty low. Like if we ship a full 1,500 pound pallet and we're shipping multiple pallets, we typically get that down to about, I'd say like 60 a pallet, 65 a pallet. I'd have to do the exact math on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cheap.
And so what outreach methods are you typically using to find suppliers? Cold calling, cold emailing, LinkedIn?
No, I really like to go to the supplier. That might be kind of an unpopular opinion, but in terms of email versus call, I would 100% call. I think you get a lot more done just doing direct outreach. These suppliers get so many emails on a daily basis, purchase order inquiries and I want to open a wholesale account. Do you sell to Amazon sellers? But who do you sell? They get so many emails. So if it's between email and call, I would definitely call. But the way I've set my model up as of like the last couple years is really working local. I found a lot of benefits of working with more local companies, like within your state or a bordering state, and really building up those relationships. And then that way you can also go and visit. You can go talk to a real sales rep and sit down and check out their warehouse or their showroom.
That makes sense.
It's now for these local distributors, how far out are you looking? Right? Are you lucky enough where you have a major city close by, or are you driving a couple hours to kind of scope it out? What's the radius for you?
I would consider local anywhere from probably like 2 to 4 hours away, where it's like logistically you can get deliveries like next day once it's picked up.
Fine. And then, okay, so capital, you scaled quick year over year. What's been the capital allocation? Because I know you and I were jamming on some business credit stuff in the DM there too.
Yep. Big game changer, obviously, switching from, I made a big mistake in the beginning. Like I had my sales tax license, I had my LLC, I had all of that. But my very first credit card, and I was still learning about cards and how they work and all this stuff, was your basic personal card. Like it was a personal card, not a business card. Not in the Amex world, not in any of these business credit lines. And they were giving me you get a very small limit because they're looking at, personal. Businesses spend way more. I think a big game changer for me was one, I took a line of credit through a local bank, like a business line of credit. That helped. It wasn't a ton. It wasn't a ton. It was about 20K. So it did help. And then the second thing that's really helped is Amex Platinum and Amex Plum. And I would actually recommend the Plum first before you're spending a whole bunch on the Platinum.
Yeah, completely agree.
But
those
cards
the
are
Platinum
great.
doesn't come with any backing, right? If you rack up 100,000 on the Platinum.
Flex in the airport lounge. I have the Platinum, but it was just for the sign-up bonus. I'm going to cancel it. But yeah, the Plum is great because you got that 60-day payback period, right? So for anyone listening, on a normal credit card, right? Let's say you want to leverage out and you do it right. You at a maximum, you're going to have like 55 days to pay it back. That's if you spend right at the start of your statement due date. The Plum is a 60-day payback statement period. So theoretically, I'm pretty sure the way it works, if you spend at the start of the statement, you could have as much as like 80 days to pay it back.
It's pretty crazy. It definitely allows you to be able to, especially like with the time frame of purchasing product, receiving the product, or maybe you're using a prep center, the whole process of getting it into Amazon, available and sold, then it drops into your balance, and then you got to get paid from there. So for anybody newer watching, I would highly recommend, I give 2 thumbs up to the Plum card. And obviously work within your leverage
Yeah, risk tolerance.
But
And
risk tolerance for sure. You don't want to be racking up 100K if you don't have the business to back it.
I don't
But
care what Billy Flips tweets. Do it within reason.
definitely within reason. But that was a game changer. That's really how I started to increase just access to a credit line, access to credit cards, and slowly just spending that money over and over. And also, I took very, very little from the business, if anything at all, for like the first 2 years. And all through that time, I was also working on a landscaping business, which is what paid my bills.
I was
So
gonna ask, so when did you go full time?
full time, I would say mid 2019. That's where I'm like, I'm just gonna focus everything mid to late 2019. So I started like early 2018. So like 2 years in, a year and a half in, I was like, I'm just gonna do Amazon.
And so what was in 2019, you said you did 160,000?
You said second year or
Well, that year you went full time, what were the numbers like in Amazon at that point?
yeah, I think second year was like mid hundreds. So it wasn't anything crazy. I've always had a couple different hustles going on at the same time, but that's really where my primary focus started to shift. And I'm like, if I really put time into this and call these companies and land accounts and go to trade shows, I think there's a huge potential here if I really dedicate the time to it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point that I was getting at, right? Because that's a pretty big leap at that point, right? $160,000 in sales a year is not groundbreaking by any means, right? That's not something you could live off of, et cetera, et cetera. So there was some risk at that point where you were like, all right, this is all or nothing. I'm gonna put all my eggs into this Amazon basket and just kind of see what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've always kind of been a all or nothing. I just put myself in the position where it was like, I don't have a choice but to make this work.
Right. And that's ultimately a lot of times what we see does work.
It does. Little scary, but it does. But yeah, fast forward a couple of years, and now we're doing warehousing. We warehouse a lot of our product, and most of our stuff is local.
That's
and then we got two full-time employees that are doing all the prep and pack, and then one fill-in, if we need, a third set of hands.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so let's talk some current business structure and obviously look forward to 2023. Out of those 2 or 3 people, are they just prepping, or do you have any sourcers, buyers, etc., any VAs, and ultimately what are you looking at for 2023 in terms of goals?
So they are mainly working like warehouse work. They're primarily doing prep. Big focus is prep, building up the pallets. We use a software called 2D Workflow to help us
Shout out Larry.
Yeah, shout out Larry. I love that tool. It helps us quickly prep our products, build pallets, easily schedule shipments, and the biggest thing with 2D was the delegation aspect, where I can be anywhere in the world and put together a shipment that they can work through and print all the labels and boxes. This is not a sponsored thing, by the way. It's really changed the game for us.
Everyone says that. Everyone is successful that says that. What does it actually do, though? Obviously, I can, need to do my own research too, but what does it actually do?
Your workflow?
Yeah.
You skip the send to Amazon. It gets you off of Seller Central, so you can do all your shipments through 2D.
Got you. And then you've gone pretty viral in the past. So you want to talk about the TikTok stuff?
Yeah, the TikToks actually started as a joke. I like stitched a video. No, it did. I was with a buddy of mine, and at the time I was working out of a garage, and it was just crammed with stuff. And all I said, I was like, hey, it was something real dumb. I was like, hey, you guys should be hustling. Like you can sell name brand products on Amazon. And this is like, 2 years into my journey, and I had like some Dove product or something and some grocery. Just my garage was packed with boxes. It just looked really funny. And that video ended up getting like 10,000 views. And I wasn't used to how TikTok like pushes videos like that. Like that's actually not that crazy for a TikTok.
Right.
And then I just started uploading like tips and tricks and what softwares I use, and people just kept asking questions, and it snowballed into a couple of, I think a few videos have like 2.5 million, 3 million.
Jeez.
And
So
what's some of that? Like, have you been able to connect with other sellers? I know you have education you do. What's been the big thing that's come out of that positively, do you think? Or a multitude of things. We're obviously here because of that too.
the amount of people I always recommend that is really looking to connect, just start post some screenshots or make a couple videos and toss them on Instagram. Even if you don't care, you don't have to be some viral, big viral person, but that has been, I have met some like amazing people just through uploading basic content and connecting. Like it got me here with you guys, Warner, Larry, Dan, 1000 ASINs, like being able to connect with all these people just from it's like community basis, you start talking about, hey, and it's really the power of the people. You're like one direct message away from being like, hey, have you tried this? Did this work? And if they say, oh no, do it this way, they just saved you like 3 months of time. So connecting with other sellers has been huge.
Yeah, Miles and I have a specific sensitivity to that, because we have a funny story like 3-4 years ago, I guess maybe 2 years ago, about how we connected.
Yeah,
and we've been talking ever since. It's a crazy thing,
because there's, I don't want to say competition, but like there's almost no one actually does it. You know what I mean? It's like if you put actual effort into it, like you can count on your probably like only a few dozen people show their face every day on Amazon social media. Like, and everyone that does it like makes drastic progress over time. You don't have to show your face, but like you brought up a good point, right? Screenshots, stuff like that, just because people are yearning. We clearly are yearning for other people we can talk to about this kind of stuff, because it's so pretty much impossible to in person. And everything like that as well. I assume a lot of hate in the TikTok comments too.
Yeah, at some point you just start to, I don't know. Sometimes if they're real bad, I just delete them. You don't really need super negative stuff on the videos, but I just kind of ignore it. I mean,
That's the problem with how it works though, is if someone watches the whole video, they'll see more of it, so they'll get mad at it again.
I always laugh. I'll stitch a video, and then somebody's like talking about the video I stitched, and I'm like, did you watch the whole minute? Like the content? You totally lost the content. But I think I didn't mean to jump off topic. You guys were asking kind of like game plan 2023. What is this going to look like moving forward? Our goal, I think, for this year is going to be probably right around 4 million, just above 4 million. I think is feasible with our access to credit at this point. Bring on make our full-time or our part-time third person full-time. Really just start pumping volume. Continuing to increase our in-stock limits in terms of units, so we can really just pump Amazon, more connections, and also still digging into some of the best connections we've made. There's always like bigger purchase orders, lower the price 5% or something, and now you get 5-10 more SKUs that work now. So it's kind of scaling up and building that relationship with the supplier.
So at the current time,
oh yeah, you got it, Garrett.
Are you handling all acquisition of new accounts and sourcing and buying all yourself at this point?
Oh yeah, we'll jump back to that. So I have one VA. I should mention that I have one VA that does like basically all my spreadsheet work. She is full-time. At one point I had 2. I've tested it. I've added a second person. I didn't really see the need for like endless amounts of leads. That's a lot. You got 2 people like OA all day long, right? Send me all the leads possible from all these websites. Wholesale, it's like if we find a winning product, we might be able to keep that in stock for 2 months to realistically like 6 months. Price might go down a little bit. We'll pick it back up later. But yeah, 40 hours a week. I have one VA that's going through any spreadsheets. She'll first scan it through a tool, get some results, and then do a deeper like manual search through the brands themselves and really see what, is there any opportunity there.
And so the newer wholesale seller that went through that first Excel catalog, found nothing. What's that next step? Are they going line by line in that Excel? Are they going back to the sales rep to adjust and negotiate pricing? What's that next step?
I'm real big on negotiation. Just from what I've learned though, that does take a pretty ample amount of capital to be able to like toss around big chunks of change. It is a little bit tough to negotiate if you're placing like a, you know, $1,500, $2,000 purchase order is going to look significantly different than, you know, 20,000, 30,000. Because really the more you spend with the company, the tighter they can get on their margins, which is ultimately going to save you money in the long run. But for a newer seller, I always recommend everything about wholesale is really volume. Is like you will eventually, if you continue to call companies, you will find a company where you get those first initial products that do work. Are they going to make you the perfect profit margin and the highest ROI ever? Likely not. But it's all about getting your foot in the door with these companies. You get your foot in the door, you start placing purchase orders, and as time goes on, hey, we'll double, you know, what we're buying on this product each month, but could we work into 5% off, 8% off? Now you've kind of broken the ice. They're starting to work with you on price. You're making more, you're putting more back into the business, and you're kind of scaling up with that company slowly. So that really what I would recommend in the beginning is focus more on not so much of making $1 million on each product, but breaking the ice and getting your foot in the door with these companies.
That makes sense. Yeah, and that's like such long-term thinking that benefits in any area of business as well right there. And so you're up in Michigan, right?
We are, yeah.
Yeah, because like that's not a prime location, I feel like, for locally based wholesale. So you're like smashing people's limiting beliefs as they're listening to this about that. And like, are some of these suppliers a couple hours away, or is it just like, you know, within an hour, 30 minutes or so?
We got like Chicago is not like, I would consider if it can get delivered within a day, I consider it somewhat
okay.
local.
So almost everyone has that then. That's what's nice. Many people have availability and stuff like that then.
Except for Port Rodriguez in Nebraska.
I was just thinking that. Yeah. He'd be like in Omaha. That's exactly.
I would say it's not quite as local. Like if you were out in Jersey or New York, and you can literally just walk down the street and pass warehouses that are, you know, they got general merchandise, grocery, whatever it may be. I'd say within a couple hours, though, is pretty local.
Gotcha.
It's just to cut down on logistics for the most part.
Yeah, like there's even OA sites that I know that ship close to me that I favor more due to that, for speed, you know, multitude of reasons. What's the big bottleneck for you right now?
Biggest bottleneck is probably, that's a really good, you guys are great with questions. Biggest bottleneck in the wholesale
business. We've been at this for 2 years, I would hope.
Yeah. No, I've seen so many episodes. You guys are like, it's great. I would say really mastering probably our flow of restocking, like just not stocking out of a product that does well and consistently. It seems that it is a hard thing to master, like exactly when to place an order and how much quantity.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you got your logistics, the time frame to get it to the warehouse. How quickly can my guys get it prepped? How quickly can we get that out the door and picked up and then checked in? It's just such a process. So we have it pretty optimized as of now. We don't often stock out of much stuff, but that's taken like years to get to that point. So it could be a bottleneck. And then the other thing is just simply getting enough of the products consistently. Like it's mainly stuff outside of our control. It's kind of our biggest bottlenecks is like our supplier will be sold out. So we're trying to look into, should we really start like back ordering a lot or taking a couple months of inventory in so we can just release it from our own warehouse instead of, you know, a supplier saying, hey, we don't have it in stock right now. And then we're out for like 3-4 weeks. So that's kind of, it's really getting that flow of having enough on hand or making sure my supplier always has it.
And continuing on that point, how often or how far out are you typically buying with your specific SKUs?
I would say some of our best sellers, I have no problem keeping like 5 to 7 weeks of inventory. So we'll send in a shipment that starts getting checked in. A couple weeks later, we'll add, from our warehouse, we'll take, another pallet of product. I don't want to be buying, 3-4 months of inventory and keep it stagnant at our warehouse and just store it for a while. But our top very fast sellers, I'm typically buying like 5 to 7 weeks of inventory. So we can just easily, it gives us a buffer. If Supplier is sold out, we still have more inventory to send, and then we can wait the couple weeks until they restock.
So you're sending out in kind of shifts as that SKU progresses. That's pretty cool.
And then also like lots of test orders. We recently been doing, so I like to test anywhere from like 2 to 4 items. It's kind of like a new thing I've been doing is every purchase order, I kind of force myself to dig through the catalog and find a couple products, even if it's your 1-a-day sellers. You're selling 1 unit a day, you can move 30 a month. I'll try to add 2 to 4 new items because you never know when something could sell a little bit quicker than you expect.
Yeah,
Man, that's a good nugget. So for the BBB episodes that are still hanging around with us 40 minutes in.
Yeah, there's a tweet somewhere in there too, I would say. On that, do you go to Miami?
I should be. Yeah,
Cool.
I'll be down.
Okay, cool. I forget who we were talking to Zach the other day, and it was like the dominoes just fall every time with something like one person books and then another person books. Sweet, that's good stuff. So we'll get to hang out there in like 3 weeks here on that. How are you repricing?
So we switched about 4 months ago over to Seller Snap. I did see recently, no paid promotions here, but it kind of caught my eye. Aura is launching Aura 1, which was kind of interesting. And I'm sure, a couple months from now, this will be old news, but it looked like they had like a AI option coming in. So I'm not 100% sold on any one specific repricer, but for the time being, Seller Snap is for the most part doing what we're needing it to do. It's consistently changing our pricing. And can I add a nugget? Can I add a nugget to repricing?
Do it.
Okay. I think a lot of new sellers overcomplicate their repricing strategies. They're trying to come up with something super innovative, and the best approach is set up whatever whatever tool you're using, kind of just a basic automated, just set a min and max. And it's always better to have a repricer than to not have one, especially with tools out there like Alpha Repricer. Not a lot of people know about that, but it's $15 a month. And I actually use that for like 1.5 years, and it works great. It's a very entry level. I would much rather have that than have to sit there and change prices all day long.
Because you have no upside up. Like you could set your minimum 5 cents below your current price and have the repricer on, and you just went from a 0% chance of ever selling above your current price to like 10%, which is still drastic over the long term. So yeah, have something. That is a good point. So I was talking to one of my coaching students yesterday. They're like, I'm worried about lowering my price. And I'm like, I completely get it. I was the same way. And she's awesome and everything. And I was like, think about it this way, and that once you have the repricer on, you immediately you have room where you can go up. Set your minimums really high if you're worried about tanking, because that makes it legitimately impossible. Like impossible for it ever to go below that. But getting that BQL free trial immediately starts to give you upside, and then that's going to help you sell items quicker, sell items for higher, and get you more conviction, which is just going to move your time horizon quicker and get you like pumping stuff and getting your results quick and everything. So yeah, I completely agree. Something cheap like that's fantastic too. That's good stuff. Any like specific things you do, raise price at night, anything like that, or are you just nice and simple, kind of like me with it?
Very basic. I haven't set any criteria to pull anything up necessarily. Seller Snap it's been working pretty well, but I do know that is a good technique. Like in your slower time frame, I'd say like 2 a.m. Eastern to like 5. I'm sure there's an official range, data wise, but I would say like 2 to 5 a.m., 2 to 6 a.m. A lot of reprices you can set it to jump to max, and a lot of other, especially on like a listing where most sellers you can tell are like wholesale sellers and not really doing arbitrage, their repricer might follow. Like either you will follow theirs or theirs is going to follow. So in the morning, You're kind of starting fresh, and then you guys might kind of compete and trickle down throughout the day. But that reset can definitely help. But yeah, definitely have a repricer instead of not have one. It's worth the 15, 20, 30. If it's $50 a month and you're selling 10, 20% more product, you're going to make the $50 like in a snap.
Yeah.
So
but the biggest point is, especially for the newer sellers that are still hanging out with us, right? The most important thing is just being equal to the current buy box. That's the biggest leverage point we can have.
And be an FBA.
Right. Yeah, a repricer is not going to fix a bad product. It's not going to make a bad product good. It'll maximize a good one. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if we're just simply equal to the current buy box across our entire catalog, we're going to get sales. Whether we're 2 days into selling on Amazon or 2 years, that's the fact of the matter.
Yeah, that's really cool about the buy box, especially mainly on arbitrage type items. And like the minimum viable thing is just being FBA and being close to the buy box, being close to the other people bases. You do get that. It's like a major limiting belief for people even thinking to start out and stuff.
Oh, I just started selling on Amazon. Am I going to get any sales? Yeah, if you buy good products and you price competitively, you will get sales.
And you can see in the buy box stats, like on any listing that's selling, there's a bunch of people on. There's naturally just on the distribution of sellers, there has to be people with low reviews for that to like work and everything. Restock limits still giving you trouble, Mike?
Not anymore. It's been good.
I think this Monday I'm gonna be officially chilling.
Yep. We really got hit pretty hard with multitude. We had some logistics problems in December. We did not expect. I won't go too in depth or off topic, but it really crushed us and limited us during fourth quarter. We were doing a lot of FBM as much as we possibly could. FBM fulfilled by merchant, so shipping from for those newer people watching, basically shipping from your facility or shipping from your home. So during Q4 we were doing a lot of that. But we actually have like 3.5 times the limits we had in December now. So we're like back to like full operating potential, but it was incredibly frustrating to have these delays and these restock limits. But it is what it is. That's kind of the nature of Amazon, right? Is you're going to hit hurdles constantly, and it's just a matter of like, okay, let's jump to the next idea. Let's jump to the next. What can we do to work within the situation we're given?
Yeah, we have enough luxuries playing in Amazon sandbox. We can toughen up and deal with some of the headaches as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and especially too, just like pivoting, getting that FBM infrastructure in place and everything like that. And last question: when you're doing wholesale outreach, what do you say when they say we don't work with Amazon sellers?
I try to hit it kind of head on. Your typical questions: have you had issues with Amazon sellers in the past? Do you guys carry any brands that could be problematic? And maybe that's something we can look into, like maintaining map pricing. If you've had any like map violators in the back, basically like everything that will cause a problem, just hit it head on and try to get around it somehow. And I do also like to call back and revisit. Like I'll make a spreadsheet kind of where I'm at in terms of trying to land a new account. And I have a maybe column where they're like, oh, we don't really sell to a lot of Amazon sellers. We used to, but we're not opening any more accounts. I've heard that so many times. Or we already have enough sellers. I will call back like every week, every couple weeks, and just be like, almost to the point where you start to know somebody on a name to name basis. You're like, Jim, it's Mike again, let's because it's funny too, because we've had accounts that have opened up like that. It's like, Jim, can I just come out and visit? Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Come on, Jim, clutch up for the boys.
So really kind of hitting it head on and reassuring them that you are bringing knowledge to the table. You understand that if they do have brands, that you got to keep in mind, a wholesaler, and this could be opinionated, I think a lot of these wholesalers or suppliers, their relationship with the brands that they carry, they're reselling it to people like us, like smaller online retailers or something. Those relationships are so important. So if they get inexperienced Amazon sellers tanking the price on all of these listings, it's really ruining that relationship between that supplier and the brand. they're going to say, hey, why are you not vetting out your customers? Which would be like us in that scenario. If we're tanking prices, that there's a secondary conversation there between that supplier and the brand. So it's really just I just approach it head on. And in some scenarios, a no is just a no. And that's why wholesale it's a long play and it's a volume game, and you just keep calling and keep attending trade shows.
Yeah, Miles, before we wrap up here, what's your take on brand versus distributor?
Brand versus distributor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't do too much brand direct. We go with kind of the big catalog approach, your distributor approach. However, this year, that's actually one of the goals, is to work more brand direct, get like 1 or 2 brand accounts that we can start placing POs with. I think that's a good way to kind of scale to the next level in wholesale when you got the consistency, or it's like a little bit harder of an entry point sometimes. But there's pros and cons to both, in my opinion. Is you might be exposed to products you would never have thought to sell by going the distributor route, because you can look at a massive catalog and bunch of different niches to sell in, from like grocery, health and household, yada yada. And then your brand approach is going to be a little bit more exclusive, and I think you can build a closer relationship with them. I know, Garrett, I think you do some brand direct, don't you? Or for the most part, all. Yeah, it's really cool. So that's one of our goals moving forward.
I mean, the biggest advantage with, I think, brand direct is you can front load a lot of that qualification, right? Because at the end of the day, with distributors and suppliers, you win the account, you open the account, you do all that front work, you do all that work, and then at the end of the day, you still have to qualify your products, right? Where on the other token, if I'm going brand and I start with Amazon and I start with a specific product that I already know I want to sell, then the objective is clear. If I can map it back to that brand, position ourselves as someone they want to work with, open the account, it's pretty much game over at that point.
Have you met Corey, who we had on like 2 weeks ago?
I don't know. I don't think so.
We gotta get on Twitter then. Okay, because Garrett and I were bantering with him on Twitter. He's done like the world tour of the Amazon space in 2 weeks, by far the fastest ever. He's a really good wholesale guy. He'll be in Miami, I'm pretty sure, as well. So get to
It's nice.
Yeah, for sure. But you would really like Twitter, man, sure, if you're not on there yet.
I don't have Twitter, no.
Oh, dude, yeah, the Amazon space is really, really good on there for sure. Sounds good. So where can everyone find you if you're not on Twitter then?
On Twitter. Instagram, just OneUpFBA, ONEUPFBA. YouTube, it's Amazon Wholesale, and then OneUpFBA is the tagline, or just think at OneUpFBA. And if you want to check out some TikTok videos, it's Amazon Wholesale. I haven't been posting too much on there. I've seen.
Oh, come on.
I like the Instagram space. We also have a free Facebook group. It's just OneUpFBA.
All right,
sweet deal, man.
Awesome stuff. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you guys get a free trial of SellerAmp, selleramp.com, and have a great day. Thanks for listening. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.